All right. Good morning, everybody. It's the Rise and Grind Morning Show, and we already have breaking news this morning, just released a few moments ago. Thanksgiving Day game. And it's not your Lions. Cowboys and Chiefs, they're going to meet on Thanksgiving, so another schedule leak by the NFL. But hey, let's get this show kicked off this morning. Let's get the guys in and get rolling. We're going to have a packed show for you. Got a lot of topics we're probably not going to get to. But we're going to talk about the schedule leaks that we know of as of this morning, which also includes week 1 for the Detroit Lions and potentially Christmas. And that could include the Detroit Lions. So we'll be talking about that. Also, we're going to get an unbiased take this morning from Corey about Jared Goff. Got to remember that Corey is the most unbiased Detroit Lions fan that there is right now, being a newer Detroit Lions fan. And there's nothing wrong with that. But let's get his unbiased takes this morning on a couple of guys on this team. Now, they may not resonate well with everybody, but just remember, he'll learn. I'm just saying. Let's get into it this morning. All right, gentlemen, what's happening? Good morning. Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is Wednesday. We've got schedule release night tonight. Can't wait to get Corey's takes here on Jared Goff and Jameson. And then, of course, tonight, man, the first live reaction for Corey about the schedule. But good morning, Riley. Good morning, Corey. What's happening?
Good morning, man. Yeah, I woke up today. I was getting ready, and I thought, for most people, it's just a Wednesday. For us, it's schedule release day. So I'm thinking, man, this is Christmas, man. This is as good as it gets for the middle of May, the doldrums of the offseason. So, yeah, man, I'm excited to get here and get rolling with the show this morning. And I'm excited for tonight having Corey on to do the schedule release. So it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's always fun to see when you get to match up with who and where and what the weather is going to be like, probably, right? I think everyone wants to get those cold games out of the way early. Not have to play in the cold late into the season. So yeah, looking forward to finding that out later today. And I don't know if you set me up, Will, but we'll see how my takes come across to the Lions fans. Yeah, we'll see.
Look, it's all right. Like I said, you'll learn. You'll learn how this fan base is so divided. It's not even funny. To put that into perspective, there was plenty of fans that were saying that Hendon Hooker should have been the starter last year. So I'll just leave it at that. If we have a large part of the fan base that believed in that, and then Jared Goff goes and rips off 15 wins and has an incredible season, puts up the most yards in an NFL season, I mean, what does that tell you? So yeah, your takes are going to be just fine, and it's going to resonate with a large part of the fan base. But at the same time, you have guys like me that feel a little bit better about Goff. But you just mentioned something, weather. And so there's another part of the NFL fan base that believes that Jared Goff can't play in weather. So it's funny you bring that up because we do have a lot of outdoor games this year, potentially in some very cold and nasty weather compared to last season. We were indoors all season. So it's going to be drastically different to see what the NFL came up with. And were they nice? Were they not so nice? We'll find out. Anything you guys want to talk about quickly before we just get rolling? I got one announcement, and that's for Adam Gakowski. If you're in today, Trace has been trying to get a hold of you. I'll have to get you. You have to look at the members only. If I don't remember if he is a member yet, but we'll have to get you the Voxer app now that you're a mod, and get you into that if you want to get into it. You can always email me. You have my email.
I know this is a football show, but chat did just mention something that happened last night in the Detroit area, and that is the resurrection of Javi Baez, right? I don't know if you guys are baseball fans, and really? I'm not a huge Detroit baseball fan, but man, it is impressive to see what he's doing, and couldn't be more excited for the dude. When you get written off by an entire city, right, and they think you're done, and then you come back with what he's doing this year, man, that's awesome. How do you guys feel about it?
You'll have to forgive my ignorance. I'm so out of the loop on baseball. So what happened? Will, I know you were talking about it on the show you did last night live, where you said, I got to get, maybe back into full swing of things with baseball, but I don't even know what happened.
I don't know what happened yesterday because I didn't watch the game.
Well, last night, I can give you a little breakdown. Last night, Javi Baez, I think he had the walk-off home run. They came back to tie the game in like the bottom of the 10th. It was a back and forth game. And the Detroit Tigers, excuse me, are the top team in baseball at the moment. So it's like it's not just him, but it's like the entire team right now is dominating, and Javi's having like a resurrection season. I saw someone sent me some stats, and it was like his batting average was like in the hundreds last year, and now his stats are better than Ohtani. And so it's like going from the bottom of the barrel to being one of the best players in the league, and on the best team in the league. And so, yeah, I think it's a great time to be a Detroit fan, whether you're a football fan, a baseball fan, or whatever. And if you're going to get back into baseball, now's the time to do it while they're winning, for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, I played baseball all throughout my high school career, college, and then semi-pro for one season before I got my pelvis ripped apart. But the one thing that I noticed about Javi's stats is his on-base plus slugging percentage is .870 right now, which is nuts. That's a nutty number. He's plus 300 in batting. He's got over 25, 27 ribbies, I think, and 5 home runs already in the season. What's hilarious to me, though, is last year or this spring, I apologize, certain channels that were just throwing the Tigers under the bus and, fire, the GM and get a different owner, this, that, and the other thing. Tigers are going to be crap. And I'm like, look, just give them a chance. I mean, you're talking about the same team last year that everyone wrote off, like we've talked about. Everyone wrote them off, and no one gave them a chance, snowball's chance in hell to make the playoffs. And what do? They make the playoffs, and they win a few games in the playoffs. And that was the same team coming back, plus more players that they were adding. Look, they're a great team. You can never write off Tigers baseball. I mean, it's one of the best baseball teams in the country for 100 years. You can never really fully write them off. It's been a rebuild in Detroit for a long time. There's been some mismanagement, but man, they are back, and there's nothing better than having, 3 or 4 sports in the city of Detroit all clicking at the same time. Detroit, Pistons did pretty well, or doing pretty well. Red Wings, I mean, all of them are doing great. And there's nothing better than that in Detroit, especially when we have, double headers. You might have a baseball game and then a football game following. It's the best time to be in downtown.
Yeah, it sounds like we're talking for a minute. I'm like, are we talking about what's the guy's name? Baez?
Javi Baez.
Yeah.
I was like, is Corey talking about him or Goff? Are you talking about the Tigers or the Lions?
Seriously, it sounds similar, right?
Cast off, and then everybody doubts you, and then now you're one of the best players on the best teams in the league. So yeah, it's a good time for Detroit.
All right, well, you done did it, Riley. So since you just made the segue into Jared Goff, we're just gonna roll right into that. So I hope you're ready, Corey.
Sure, why not?
All right. So you've been a fan from afar, right? You're an NFL fan first, and now your dedication is moved to a new team. I don't know who your original team is. Have we ever heard who your original team was?
My hot take is that I didn't have one. I grew up as the kid who watched SportsCenter, right? So you are a fan of the game and a fan of players. I was a Jordan fan for basketball, right? I grew up down the street from the Angels, so you kind of get adopted into that, but they were never good, and so I wasn't really a fan of any specific baseball team, but football specifically, I never had a fandom. And then there was a 3-year stretch in college that I was a Seahawks fan when in that draft where they picked Russell Wilson, right? And he was my guy coming out of that draft, and so if you remember that QB class with RG3 and Tannehill and all those guys, I loved Wilson. And when he had success early, it was easy to root for them. I had friends that were Seahawks fans, so I kind of jumped on that bandwagon. But once they got DK, I was out. And so I denounced my fandom a long time ago. And then once I realized my brother might make it, I said, okay, I'm not going to be a fan of anybody for sure. And then whoever gets my brother gets me too. And so I've been watching the NFL and been playing fantasy football, which is a great way to like a lot of players and analyze a lot of players. And grow opinions about a lot of players, but wasn't a fan of any specific team and haven't been for a long time. So my takes are my own, and they come with no pressure from any fan base or any old lingering feelings about certain teams.
That's perfect. So you were ripe for the taking, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wherever my brother gets drafted, I'm going with him.
Exactly. So
I love it.
I mean,
there's nothing more real, right,
Yeah.
about that, and you get the fresh, hot off the press takes now because it's new to you, and you can really give what is a true, unbiased view or review, and I love it. Well, you were just going to say something. I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, no, it's interesting that I was in the market of the LA Rams, right? And so I got to see, and I'm about the same age as Sean McVay, and so when they hired Sean McVay, really an offensive mind, like a really a genius when it comes to coaching football from the offensive side of the ball. And so my first opinion was Jared Goff is that when they made that trade for Stafford and they gave, Goff to the Lions and brought Stafford in, I had my opinion was Sean McVay sees something in Stafford that he doesn't have in Goff. He knows what he has in Goff and he's willing to get rid of him, and he must see something else in Stafford. And so it's never a good look, right, when you're the guy that's cast away, to bring in somebody from your own position, and then for that guy to then go and win a Super Bowl. And I know Matthew Stafford is a legend in Detroit, and rightfully so. Some of those videos you see of him just gutting it out with the grit that he had with his shoulder injury. He's going back in the game to finish the game, and all those receptions or passes he threw to Megatron, and you knew that Stafford had it. And I was just wondering, did McVay know that Goff doesn't have it? And it was interesting to see him come to Detroit and then have success. And so, I don't know how you guys feel about the player that is Jared Goff, but I love his personality and his grit, his mentality since he has gotten to Detroit. How do you guys feel about, what he has done since he's been here? And then we could talk a little bit about his on-field, his performance.
Well, I think you hit it right away. I mean, his personality, his cool, calm demeanor, I think is everything you want in a quarterback. Is a leader. You need someone that can stay neutral and calm in the pocket, neutral and calm in the locker room, someone that's neutral and calm in the meeting room, but also someone who is a little bit nerd, right? That is just a little bit smarter than everybody else, that understands things. And I say the word nerd because it was last year, I believe, that Travis Kelce had this take on his podcast where he said, you have to be nerd to play quarterback. And the reason why he said that was because they were at a wedding or something, and Patrick Mahomes was there with his wife, and Kelce was there with whoever he was with at the time. Maybe it was 2 years ago now, and because it wasn't Taylor. So he said, and where do we find Patrick Mahomes? So he's missing for hours, and he's in his car, and he's got like 500 pages of playbook notes all over the car, and he's just reading the playbook. And he's just going through things, and he's studying the game while he's at a wedding. And so he made this analogy to being a really good quarterback in the NFL, that you've got to have this nerd about you. And it just kind of hit me. It struck me like, that is so legit. I get it. You can either be this polarizing athlete, polarizing personality, or the exact opposite. Maybe be a little detracted, what's the word I'm looking for? Introvert versus extrovert. I would say Jared Goff's probably more of an introvert versus an extrovert. That's just my personal take. I don't know the guy outside of what I see on TV. I have never had a conversation with him. So that's just my take from afar. But I will say that, moving on to the on-field stuff, which we'll get to in a second, he's done everything that he's been asked to do. And so when you watch what he's been able to do from a locker room perspective, what you hear from the coaches, what you hear from the guys on the team, the takes that they have after the game, his poise and everything that he does, it's been bar none some of the best quarterbacking that I have seen without a guy that has, sledgehammers for legs like David Montgomery that's running the ball everywhere. So, Corey, your take on Jared Goff off the field.
Off the field or on?
Oh, I'm sorry. Riley, your take on Jared Goff off the field. My apology.
Well, I think it goes back to, I remember Brad Holmes doing an interview, and he was talking about, obviously because he came from LA. And so when he took over as the general manager of Detroit and they made contact, I think he said, Les basically said, hey, we're going to do this trade. Stafford wants to come here. We want to make a change. And he asked Brad Holmes, do you want Jared Goff? And Brad Holmes said, hell yeah, I want Jared Goff. Like, it wasn't a throw in or sure, yeah, if you're willing to get rid of him. And Brad Holmes was somebody that was a huge driver of the Rams trading up to get Jared Goff. So he's always believed in him. And I remember Dan Campbell being interviewed one time before his first game as head coach. And they asked him, what would you like in your quarterback? And they couldn't announce the trade at that time. And he said, well, I would like somebody that had blonde hair, wears number 16, and so it was awesome to see how much Campbell and Holmes believed in him. And then you see the mental strength to kind of navigate through these waters. So just the mental fortitude that he has, the leadership that he has. I agree with Will. He's kind of probably more introverted, but that's fine. There's no one way you have to do things.
Exactly.
Obviously, he's produced. And as much as I love and will always love Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff he's a hell of a quarterback, man. He's somebody that you're excited to have on your team.
It's funny you say I didn't know about Dan and Brad's comments, after that trade. And there's part of me that wants to believe wholeheartedly that this was their, their unbiased take. But then there's a part of me that says, if I'm a GM or if I'm a head coach and I'm trading for a dude, I better get his spirits up right away and let him know that we love him and we want him, because otherwise he might just be straight to the bottom of the depth chart, right? Because if you don't believe in him, like, what are we doing here, right? You have to bring the guy in and have some belief, build around him and make him believe that he's that guy too. And so, I think that's very smart, right? The way that specific things are said in the media and to the team and to the public. I think it's a great way to get your quarterback in and started with a franchise. And he's not done anything, to take away from those comments, right? Like, he has been that dude, and he has been gritty, and he has been everything that the Lions needed from a quarterback. And, you don't go 15-2. You don't turn a franchise around without that leader at the helm and those intangible qualities. And so you might not hear him, and he might not be this big face that does all these marketing deals and is, the face of the NFL. But shoot, I just want a quarterback who can win. And there have been plenty of quarterbacks who have won Super Bowls. There was a long time conversation about Joe Flacco being elite, right? For far too many years. And I think everyone knew Joe Flacco wasn't elite, but he could run an offense and get them to the playoffs and won a Super Bowl, right? So it's like, do we really need the top 1% of quarterbacks, or do we need a guy who can lead a team, who can get an offense into the end zone and then and bring a Super Bowl back home? I think Jared Goff can do all those things.
So let me give you guys a couple of things here, which Riley, I know you know this stuff, and Corey, I'm sure you know this stuff too. But when Jared came to this franchise, a franchise that has had a massive losing history, right, for decades, and like Brent Lighton said in the chat, when we hired this amazing, scientist, rocket scientist, and Matt Patricia, and how he was going to come and fix this franchise, and it completely fell apart. I mean, Dan and Brad inherited probably the worst team you could have at that time. The worst roster, everything. No money. I mean, literally no money. They were upside down the first year, and then they were quasi upside down the second year. We didn't really have any money until 2023. So having to navigate a team for 2.5, 3 seasons without any money, very little money, is very hard to do, and that's why the rookies had to play. So Jared Goff gets inserted into one of the worst franchises next to the Browns for 4 or 5 decades, and he's coming to a team that doesn't have a roster. The first year we go 3-13-1. He misses 3 games to some sort of an injury, and then the second year, I mean, we're not looking good. We're not looking good at all, and then it just turned around. Right, everything turned around. What do we start? 1-6 in 22. Yeah.
Yep.
So we go 3-13-1. We start 1-6. Sheila Hamp comes to the mic and says, "Look, I trust these guys. I trust who I've hired, and Brad and Dan. They're going to do the job. We're going to follow the process." Fandom's melting down like fire somebody, not even giving anyone a chance. All over Goff's ass, and even while they're all over Goff, they're not looking at the fact that he's actually playing well. He's playing pretty darn well for a quarterback that doesn't have a team. I think a lot of fans failed to realize he didn't have a team around him. He didn't have the weapons. I mean, Amon-Ra was about the only receiver we had. Josh Reynolds, just started to play, that second year. It's been an interesting climb for Jared. But now if you look at where he is, I mean, that trajectory's gone straight up, and he's not plateaued yet. He's been better every single season. He's had his best seasons as a quarterback in Detroit. The only thing he hasn't done is get to a Super Bowl like he did in LA. So inheriting and being part of everything that has changed in Detroit, Jared's been a part of it all. He's been a big reason why this team has succeeded. Dan and Brad have always come to the mic and said, no, like Jared is our guy. We've always believed in him. We're going to continue to believe in him. He's going to start next week. And then here you are 4 years later, and we're winning playoff games. We're going to NFC championship games. We got some of the best records and stats in the NFL because they didn't move off of Jared Goff. So now, Corey, let me get your take on Jared Goff on field. But before I do that, 2 rumors I want to get to real quick. One, there was just one in the chat about Packers, Lions at Packers week 1. That is a rumor that was facilitated about 30 minutes ago. It's not confirmed. The week 1 rumor that we have is Bears at Lions. That's the week 1 rumor that we have. The second, it's NFC North is like the major rumor for the Lions in week 1. I guess it could be away, it could be home, but what we've heard is at home, Lions to open up, and it could be a Sunday, Monday night game to open up the season. The thing that I will throw at you guys is if you paid attention to Terry and Arnold's text or his tweet, look at who we're playing week 1. And then Kirby goes on Rich Eisen and totally slips up and says, when Rich Eisen brings up the schedule and he says, oh, Bears, yeah, we play them first. So Kirby said that, and I'm like, oh, okay. So that would make a lot of sense. Terry, and look at who we're playing first. Big polarizing team with Ben Johnson over there. I mean, that's made for NFL TV right there, is Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell going at it. And both teams not having any tape on each other. This is like, who's better? Is it Dan or is it Ben? It's just like the Sean Payton and Dan Campbell game from a couple of seasons ago. And I mean, Dan wiped the floor with them. So those are the main rumors for week 1. We also heard Vikings. So I think it's NFC North. And then Vikings potentially hosting the Lions on Christmas Day for a Christmas game, which I'm not excited about that because I don't really want to travel to Minnesota on Christmas, but my sister's there, so it could work. It could work for me, but I'm just one person, right? So anyway, we'll move off of that. We'll come back to that probably in a few moments, but let me get your take about Jared Goff on field, his performance, his ability, what you think about him truly as a quarterback, and then rank him for us on where he is in the NFL today.
Rank him.
I want the ranking because we've talked about it.
Well, we're just gonna spitball it here. I mean, okay, when I think of quarterbacks and NFL quarterbacks and all quarterbacks, right? You kind of do the create a player, right? Like what type of head, like who's the best head, like their arm, their leg, their mobility, those types of things. So when I'm just breaking down Jared Goff as a quarterback, right? Strongest arm in the room, he's not Matthew Stafford, right? It's maybe not Josh Allen, but with his, I think we were talking about it earlier, with his build, right? It may not look like the strongest arm, but I think he does have strength. If you're throwing a deep ball, and you're not, if Jamison Williams not outrunning your deep ball, then you probably can get it out there. The dude is one of the fastest guys in the NFL, right? And one of the things I think about Jared Goff is that being that nerdy, football guy coming from Cal, this dude has got it between the ears, and understanding the scheme in which you play in is I think probably more important than the athletic attributes, especially for the quarterback position. It's one of the only positions in the NFL where you don't really, do a lot with your legs. Your physical, athleticism is limited because of what's asked of you. You're handing the ball off, right? You're doing play action. You're Tom Brady, one of the best ever about hiding the ball and making things look the same. Couldn't run a 40, man. Like this dude was a pocket passer. And so we look at guys like that, and I think Jared Goff is cut from the same mold, but the NFL has changed, right? And everyone wants a guy who can scramble. It looks really good to have Caleb Williams coming out of USC who's making all these X factor plays, but it just doesn't translate when you get to the NFL because the defenses are bigger, stronger, faster, and schemed up to stop that. And so even the most at Lamar and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, these guys who can make plays off schedule, you don't want them doing that all the time, right? Or else something's wrong with your offense. And so I think Jared Goff is the perfect fit for the Lions. He is the perfect distributor. He's the point guard, right? Which is what you want your quarterback to be. So I think he's everything that fits for the Detroit Lions. I think he's definitely a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. There's 32 teams, which means there's 32 starting quarterbacks, and I think I can list 5 probably on the off the top of my head that I would pick before Jared Goff. But then you start getting in to like, well, you could take either one. So I mean, let's just throw out the top guys. Everyone's taking Mahomes. Everyone's taking Josh Allen. Everyone's taking, and I'm not saying everyone, like the Detroit fans, don't have points of contention against these guys, but I think this is the consensus. Quarterbacks in the NFL right now who are doing it at the highest level. Joe Burrow, pocket passer, right, but has had constant success. But the team necessarily hasn't. So would you want a quarterback like that, or would you want a Jared Goff, a winner, right? Like that has constantly put a winning team out on the field for the last couple of years. We got with Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Hurts,
yep,
Jalen Hurts, Lamar. Lamar's shown that he could put up stats, but last year was an anomaly, right? His touchdown passes were way up compared to his previous couple years. And so those 5 really come to mind. Then you get into, okay, would you rather have an old Matthew Stafford or a young Jared Goff, right? Some of those intangible qualities can be argued. Baker is having a resurgence, but he's essentially Jared Goff to me in a different form, right? He's got that strong arm and stuff, but still the same type of situation. You got young guys like CJ Stroud and all these dudes who haven't proven it consistently year after year and have had ups and downs. I mean, I'm not taking any rookies into account because we don't know what they are. You talk about Jaden Daniels, great first season, but now that teams have film on him and know what his strengths are, is he going to be able to continue that trajectory, or is he going to regress a little? We'll see, So I think that's it for me. Jared Goff is able to play the quarterback position, as well as you can ask. And I think, like I said before, I just want a winner. I just want somebody who can lead and win and execute. If I'm an offensive coordinator, which I've been, not at the college level, but at the high school level, the relationship between that coordinator and your quarterback, it's one of the most important relationships on the entire team, because that guy has to be an extension of you on the field. If he's not seeing the game the same way I am, right, as a coach, then we are not going to be successful as a team. And then it goes to the receivers as well. Like there is an unspoken communication that happens mid-play, right? That quarterbacks and receivers have to be seeing the game the same way. And I think we've seen that Jared Goff and Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams and these guys who have built that chemistry over time have that communication, capability, and it's only going to continue to develop. And then you bring guys in like Tesla and your favorite from minicamp, right? Love it. These dudes are going to fit in fast and realize like this is what we do here. And Jared Goff is a great leader, and like I'm going to just fill in the role and do what I can to help the team. And so, yeah, I how do you guys feel about my take? Am I going to get, hazed, or are people going to agree with me about what I feel about Jared Goff?
I think you've largely described Jared Goff, and there's nothing wrong with doing that.
I hope so.
Look, every quarterback has their pluses and minuses. Fair comment, right? Fair statement. Everyone has, things that they don't do well. Matthew Stafford, seeing some of the comments saying, I'd rather have a prime Stafford back inside this culture. That's a fair statement. I would too, because of what he was when he was at his prime, with his arm strength, his ability to move. But maybe let's think about it this way. He was throwing the ball to one guy the majority of the time. right? Jared Goff is spreading the ball out to 10 guys. Like legit, look at some of the game, stats where he's put the ball in 10 guys' hands through the air. Stafford is dotting Kelvin all day, and then maybe Golden Tate a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think there's a big difference between the scheme, right? The culture and what they're able to do. Maybe the scheme doesn't fit Matthew Stafford. I don't think that there's the same offense in LA right now that Jared Goff had. That offense is designed around what Matthew Stafford does well. And I think that's the point that us fans, you fans, need to understand from a football schematic standpoint. You don't fit every scheme. You couldn't put Jared Goff behind, the Eagles' offensive line and run the same plays. Now, could he probably run 75% of them? Absolutely. But it might be those 25% of the plays that Jalen Hurts is the guy that's making that play work and the connection that he has, with that team. Jared Goff lives inside this scheme. He does well. And I kind of get sick of the comments that say, he's just a scheme driven or a system quarterback. There's nothing wrong with that. Like if you do well at something, that's like saying, well, you're just an engineer, Well, yeah, I'm really good at being an engineer. What makes me a bad person because I'm really good at my job? I'm really good as a system quarterback. I'm really good as an off-structure quarterback. There's different personalities. That doesn't matter. Schematically, you've got to fit it. And to your point, I think you were mentioning you have to be dialed in with your coach. You have to be dialed in with the coordinator. If you're not dialed in and seeing the field, the same way that they are, you can forget about it. Because if the players in the quarterback, right, if the entire team is not on the same page, it's not going to work. And you might be the best quarterback in the world. You might do everything perfect. But if you're not seeing it the same way that those players are, if you're not seeing it and connected to a level that your running backs and your receivers are, if you're not understanding how your offensive line shifts when there's pressure coming from the left, or if you're getting pressure on both sides and what your offensive line normally does, if you don't understand that, you're going to go down. You're going to fumble the ball. You're going to throw an interception. See, Jared gets it. He knows. He will hang in that pocket and get drilled and get right back up, or he'll hang in that pocket and deliver the ball. And to your other point, man, you threw up a hot one with the J-Mo thing, because very early off in his career with J-Mo, everyone is saying Jared Goff's got a noodle arm. He can't get the ball out to J-Mo. Look at J-Mo's out running him. No. Let me get your take on this. Sorry, Riley, I'm not trying to ignore you, but I just want to continue with this for a second. J-Mo and Jared Goff had to do what for that relationship to be what it was last year? What's the word that I'm trying to put in there? That what did they have to do together for that relationship to work? You know what I'm saying, don't you, Corey?
Build chemistry,
bingo,
get reps, right? Like you gotta throw to your dudes, like, to get chemistry, period. And if one of your dudes is suspended for a year, it's gonna take a little bit of extra time to build that chemistry. Yeah, I think right, that's probably what Riley's gonna answer and say too, right, Riley? Like how was it watching, that chemistry get built over this last season and the development of J-Mo?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was something where for me, we were waiting for J-Mo to get back and then knowing that talent was there. But just like Will said, when you look at Goff's stats, 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions his first year. And then, he didn't play a full slate of games. 91.5 QB rating, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 99.3 rating in year 2. And then in year 3, 30 touchdowns, 12 picks, 97.9. And then last year, 37 touchdowns, 12 picks. So he's just gotten better each year. And part of that is having time in the offense and time and opportunity to build chemistry with his offensive weapons.
I think we talked about maturity, right? Did we talk about maturity last time, Will? About giving time for players? I think it was like yesterday's show, right?
We were talking about how important maturity is. I think it was partly talking about J-Mo, but I mean, overall, you have to mature as a player. But continue on.
Yeah, no, I just was thinking like J-Mo, great player, right? And but you look back at his history first round draft pick, right? But then suspended for a whole season, and then he comes in and he's making splashes.
Few games.
I'm sorry, a few games, but it was his first season in the league, correct?
Yeah, he was injured.
No, the first season he was injured. It was the second season he got suspended.
Oh, second season.
It was like
for gambling
it
or
was either
something, right?
a 6-game suspension that they ended up walking it back to 4 games because they changed the rule. It would have only been a 2-game suspension. And then the last year, he got suspended again for another couple of games mid-season for unknown substance abuse unknown substance.
The question was, right, like how much does the staff, the coaching staff trust him, right, with these issues coming up and not getting a whole season to build that chemistry, right? Like, is this going to be a guy, we pick him in the first round, we obviously trust his talent, we obviously trust what he can do on the field, but like, as we've said about the Detroit culture, right? If you don't fit in, if you're not doing things the way that we do things, then are you our type of guy? And I think that's what they saw in Goff, right? They said, this is a guy who, when we bring him in, is going to do exactly what we are asking of him, the way we want him to do it. And, do these other pieces fit around him? And I think we've just recently heard some comments about Jameson Williams this season that have shown that maybe that is changing for him specifically, and that might speak positively to the way that relationship will continue to develop both on the field and off the field with new coordinators. I think it's an exciting time for the Lions offense because Jared Goff is another year in the system with another coordinator that he has history with. It's not like John Morton just came out of nowhere, right? This dude's been a part of this team and this program and knows Jared Goff very, very well. So, do we have the comments about Jameson and what was said about him and kind of what we expect from him this year?
Yeah, we do. And before I move on, look, this commentary has been so great. I just went ahead and shut off ads for you guys this morning because I don't want you to miss a drop of this. Really good conversation here. And these are none of this was planned really this morning. This is kind of off the cuff. We did it the last second that we were going to talk about Jared Goff. And this is why. I mean, the conversation just started rolling. And honestly, these are the types of conversations that we want to bring is more of the in-depth, take a look at our players and who they really are. I want to throw out one more thing about Jared Goff, and then I'm going to jump into JMO. I threw a link into the chat. And if you want the proof about Jared Goff's arm, it was the velocity. A lot of people were saying that Jared Goff had this noodle arm, couldn't throw the football to JMO. If you look from 2013, I think, to 25, they've done the stats now. Every year they measure the quarterback's arms, and his velocity was 58 miles per hour. And that was just a few miles per hour shy of Josh Allen. So if you, and below that, I mean, you've got guys all the way down into the 40s, that those are noodle arms, right? They're not moving the ball. And to a point that Corey made earlier, it's, it may not look fast, right? But Jared's got a taller, lanky body. He's got a little bit more of a giddy up to get that ball, but he's got a good release, quick release. Sometimes those balls are dots. And when he's pointing downfield and he's getting the ball downfield to JMO, it's the accuracy that matters the most and that gelling that, him and the chemistry that him and JMO had to get behind them before, those plays to work. And you saw them come alive last year. So moving on to JMO, we could take a break here and go right to the Morton press conference. But Johnny Morton said this about Jameson Williams, which was, just unbelievable. Unbelievable. When I first got here, he came in to see me. We had a chat, and this is how I'm painting the picture. This is what you need to do. This is how I see it. He has been unbelievable. Unbelievable in the meetings, attention to detail. I'm excited to see him this year. It's going to be a breakout year for him. So I can't wait. I just can't wait. And to further extrapolate those comments from the press conference yesterday, he's not changing the offense. And this is something that I speculated early in the offseason that he wasn't really going to have to change it a whole lot. Now, this could be smoke show, right? He could just be throwing smoke and mirrors up. But I believe him. There's no reason to fix something that isn't broken. They're going to do the same things, but it's going to look a little different maybe or be called something a little bit different. Obviously, the communication on field's going to be a little bit different. However, he said he is going to add, some of his wrinkles and some of the plays that he wants to run. But why fix something that isn't broken? Riley, first to you, the more and more we hear about JMO, I know you're a big supporter of JMO, which I am too. I've always been there for him. But what do you think about hearing, what do you think now that you're hearing these things from Morton about JMO's upcoming season?
Yeah, here's what I think. These coaches don't just say things like that. They don't flippantly just say stuff like that. Like Corey, you mentioned earlier, again, when we were talking about Goff, and I was with you, and I thought, well, you've got nothing to lose. Speak highly of your player. If he performs well, great. If not, okay, you move on. But I think in this case, it reminds me of when, I believe 2 years ago, Jared Goff and Amon-Ra were working out in the offseason, and Jared Goff evidently texted Ben Johnson and just said, St. Brown, huge year coming up. Same kind of thing here with what Morton is saying on JMO. They are going to continue to have an elite offense, in my opinion. You're right, Will. There's nothing to fix. So, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Incorporate those deep passes to JMO. Let him do what he does in this offense. JMO's the guy, and I'd be curious, Corey, your thoughts ultimately as well, but he's the guy that'll have 5 receptions and 112 yards or 2 and 54. But every time he touches the ball, he is legitimately a threat to take it for a touchdown. And I think that these comments from John Morton are genuine. And I think that they are seeing things from JMO where they're like, okay, this is going to be his best season yet. And the Lions need it. Absolutely need it.
Yeah, I mean, my history with JMO, right? Like I said, I obviously didn't know all the details, and you could see that about like not knowing when he went, for how long he was suspended and stuff. And that just goes to like the incongruence when you don't get a full season, right? A full experience, right? Doing it complete from start to end, right? When that team is there and you're not able to be there, it's hard to gel with your guy, and it's hard to get that experience and mature, like we were talking about before. We've always known he's had the physical tools, right? You don't get drafted in the first round. They don't trade up to get you, especially coming off an injury. If they don't believe you can do it. And we've obviously seen he can do it. Shoot, he ended my fantasy season last year in the playoffs with that deep bomb. And it hurt, man. It hurt. But like that just goes to show like the ceiling for JMO is there might not be one, right? And especially in this offense, as the weapon, the way in which he is used as a weapon, it's a perfect complement to Amon-Ra. It's if Tesla or whether it's Tim Patrick setting the tone early and Tesla coming around later or in the future, they all mesh and they fit a certain role in the offense that complements each other. And if I'm Jared Goff, if I'm the point guard, I don't need 5 LeBrons, right? I mean, it'd be nice to have, a bunch of different, like the same type of player, right? But I would rather have someone who can shoot, someone who could slash, someone who could dunk, right? So that I can, use those skills appropriately, in the scheme of the game. And the same thing in an offense in football, maybe even more, right? This is why Ben Johnson probably went and took Luther Burden and Colston Loveland with his first 2, offensive weapon picks. It's because he's trying to fill in those roles in the Bears offense that we already have in Detroit. And so those things that we weren't sure about with JMO seem to be getting answered now by the coaches, right? He's there early. He's committed, right? We're not hearing about any of the off the field issues like we did in the first couple of years. That's a sign to a young man taking his career and his profession seriously, right? Like this is his chance to go out there and prove who he is to the fan base, to the NFL at large. And if the Lions are going to be good this year, we've seen who we play. We don't know exactly when, but we do know where, and we do know who. We're going to need every single weapon we have. And if Jameson is going to do what we think he's going to do, it's going to take him being there from, before the coaches get there to the end of the season, hopefully hoisting a Lombardi trophy because of his role on the team. So I think he is an extremely, extremely deadly weapon, on the football field. Let's hope that that those things that they're saying about him now come to fruition once the season rolls around.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we roll right into let's roll right into the press conference of Johnny Morton. This is about a 14-minute press conference. We may or may not go through it all. The audio is good, but sometimes it's a little bit loud, but this will give us a little bit of a break. We'll be in the room, so we'll be able to pause and comment throughout the press conference, but I'm going to bring it in now. And I mean, great job, guys. We haven't even gotten to one topic yet. So let's keep it rolling here.
Everything was kind of hypothetical when we were talking to the combine. You hadn't seen the players, and obviously still haven't really seen them too much on the field. But just how much better of a feel do you have for what you're inheriting and what you're taking over here, John?
Well, like I told you before, I'm like a kid in a candy store. So every day I step on the field and I see all these weapons. It's a good feeling. And these guys have been working their butts off. And it's just exciting to see them. They're listening. They're true professionals. And it's, daily I get to know these guys. You know what I mean? So, the old line's over there. I go over there, be with them. I want to be around those guys. And I just kind of pick a group and try to get to know these guys on a personal level.
I think you said it back in February, and Vermont said it today. Most of the changes will be very subtle to the playbook, to the offense from what we've seen. What do you think the biggest change is? What's the biggest,
I'm just going to make one suggestion to the Lions, which I'm probably going to send it over to the PR team. All they have to do is fix the noise gate, and we're perfect. That's it. Just fix the noise gate, and we're dialed in, but congratulations on finally getting these guys mic'd up.
influence you're going to have?
Just some ads maybe I've done before in the past. We'll see. It'd be something like that. But other than that, not changing much. Why?
So the question was, what is he going to do with the offense this year? Are there going to be any changes? And as you heard, he said there'll be some ads, some things that he's done, in the past. And then, why change anything? But we'll keep on listening here.
It's working, right? So that would be the smartest thing to do. No, it's just about like techniques and certain things. How I talk, how I see it, how I'm teaching them the concepts, why we're calling this. It might be something they've never heard before because I'm teaching everybody how you teach the quarterback. Because I think that's important. Like, why are we running this play? Well, they should know. You know what I mean? So I think when you do that, when I used to coach the wideouts, I used to teach them how the quarterback sees it, the read. And when you do that, the game slows down for you. You play a lot faster. You know what I'm saying?
When you say ads, what are you referring to? Like what's your...
Just, plays or concepts maybe that was not here. Let's take a look at it.
What were your earliest impressions? I guess it's for Isaac, just a few days of watching him in the shorts and helmet. But what did you like?
Thought he did a good job for, it wasn't much. It was a lot of endo. But as what we're looking at, is he listening? Is he learning? How does he learn? Because that's the number one thing we got to do with these guys, all these young guys. How do we teach these guys? Because everybody learns differently, right? So I thought he did a really good job for what we were doing. It wasn't a lot, but he tried, he's taken from what he learned in the meeting room and went on the field and he was doing it.
Corey, I've never heard a coach say this before. What is endo? What was he talking about there? Do you know? Do I have you in?
I think he's saying indo, like individual periods. I don't know exactly which part of that because I'm a little delayed here. But I think they might be saying like individual periods.
That would make more sense. I thought he said endo and not indo. That would made more sense to me if I heard it that way. All right.
Yep.
So and I tell you what, it was a pretty good group of rookies. It wasn't a lot of mental errors, and that's a tribute to the coaches, but it's also a tribute to the players that we always have here.
It's huge.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dan Campbell, obviously an aggressive coach, known as an aggressive coach, fourth downs and all that. Do you consider yourself an aggressive offensive coordinator, and have you had the fourth down discussion with him about just parameters?
I'm learning that, but I am aggressive. That's kind of how I teach. When you're on the field, I think you'll probably be hearing me a lot because I'm I want everybody to hear me. It's not that I'm yelling at somebody. I want everybody to hear me. But no, I'm in the process of all that, you know, situational football and learning that, hey, once we reach a certain place on the field, my mindset has to change. I have to learn to do that because that's different. Yeah. And that's different. So, and it'll change from game to game. And the heck, you know, Dan will let me know beforehand because it's important because it's a different mindset.
You look forward to that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Whatever it takes. I don't care. You just tell me what to do.
Okay, little bit of late breaking news, but Riley just sent this to me. Jordan Schultz mentioned today that the Packers are potentially going to be opening up against the Lions at home against an NFC North rival, Jared Goff and the Lions on Sunday, September 7 at 4:25 p.m. Now, earlier we had mentioned it was the Bears, right? And then we've also heard the Vikings. I think the storyline here is it's just going to be the NFC North to open up the first weekend. And that's what I'm expecting too. Who it's going to be, who cares, right? They're going down. All right, we'll get back to Johnny Morton here. John Morton.
And I got you.
I'm sorry, I'm curious. At this point in his development, third year, at this point in Hendon Hooker's development, I'm curious, what do you want to see from him this spring?
Just everything. I'm still learning him. And it's just get better at this every day, whatever it is, footwork, okay? A lot of when you see a quarterback, it's a lot of the footwork. That's the way being around the quarterback for a few years, my last few years, I've learned a lot of the techniques of the footwork and how to get the ball out, how you read the play so you can play a lot faster, so everything's nice and smooth. I mean, that's what every quarterback is doing that every single day. Do you have the proper footwork? Are you making the right decision? And when you do that, you'll have the proper footwork and it'll help you be more accurate. So we're working with all the quarterbacks, with everybody about technique. All right, and just keep talking about the technique, and then we talk about it. If it's something they feel uncomfortable about, then we'll go back to that way. But everything is about the technique and details of everything. So it's just about being consistent and doing it over and over and over and over, right? Repetitious is the mother of learning. That's how I see it. So the more times we talk about it, the more they're going to understand it.
John, here last time, or the last time you were here, Jameson was a rookie. He was rehabbing, spent not too much time on the field. What are your first impressions of him since you've been back in the building and working with him?
Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. When I first got here and he came in to see me and we had a chat, and this is how I'm painted a picture. This is what you need to do. This is how I see it. He has been unbelievable. Unbelievable. In the meetings, attention to detail. I mean, I'm so excited and to see him this year. It's going to be a breakout year for him.
Someone's not.
So I can't wait.
Oh, sorry, that's me.
The pillars of the culture here is collaboration, John. And that goes to the coaching staff, goes to the front office. So this is your first offseason here through free agency and the draft. You were, granted some pretty nice pieces through the draft for the future of this organization. I'm just curious how you viewed the lens of collaboration, working with the front office to, fit the vision of how you will, work with these young players.
Yeah, it's me just fitting in. This is what they do, because what they've done here in the past has been fantastic, right? So it's just me learning and see how they look at things. That's the biggest thing. But I think I said this before, as a staff, offensive staff, we're doing this together. I mean, the only way you're going to win the Super Bowl is if everybody's on the same page and everybody's doing it together. So that's kind of how I look at it. And I've done that with the players, you know what I mean? So when I'm installing plays and this and that, I'm like, does that make sense? Does that everybody understand that? I want dialogue. And that's what I'm getting right now. And if it's something that doesn't hit your brain, then let's change it so it does hit your brain. So just doing everything together, I think that's the way to go. So it's just me learning to see how everybody works in every department. That's been the biggest thing. But, I mean, it's just me. I have to adapt. So.
You want a fullback in your offense? You had Burton last year, and you had a rookie in rookie camp, and Dane's referencing.
I mean, it's always good. And, you know, what kind of fullback is that? Does that give base defense? You know, everybody's got some type of fullback, but if you can get a base defense, you know, you could have some different things. But yeah, you would like to. And, you know, we'll train some guys. We'll train some guys and see if they can do it. If not, we'll continue on.
John, back to J-Mo for a second. I think you ran the fastest 40 at your combine back in '93. How does your prime speed compare to his prime speed?
Not even close. Not even close, man. I was a long strider. So it took, I have to get going. Like, he can go from 0 to 60 fast. I mean, it's amazing. I haven't been around a guy like him. I mean, there's two players. I mean, Gibbs, too. I mean, the explosion. I mean, I was around Reggie Bush. That explosion, it's impressive, those two guys.
On a different note, just what's it been like to reunite with David Shaw almost 30 years after you guys first connected with the Raiders, and how important to see to completing your vision for this offense?
Yeah, I mean, he's my best friend. And then he's the one guy. There's got to be one guy in this business that you trust, because it's hard to trust guys in this business. But he's been the one that we grew up together. We've always been friends for the longest time. So, I mean, we targeted him right away. And we were very fortunate to get him. I know he's been trying to be a head coach and this and that, and he will be in the league. But, you know, to get him, because I know other teams wanted him, it's a big deal for me, because he's my soundboard. You know what I mean? And he lets me know the heartbeat of the staff sometime, or what the players, he can feel that, because he's done it at the highest level in college. So that was real big for me, getting him, man.
John, you talked about not changing too much, but obviously you're going to change some. What are the challenges of finding the balance when you're following somebody who's had a lot of success?
I don't look at who was here. I just concentrate on what I've known has worked in the past. And let's see if these guys can. I'm not going to put something in if I know they can't do it. I mean, why do that? I mean, what they've been doing here has been working. I don't think about who called plays and this and that. I don't compare myself with other people. I don't do that. I just try to be myself. I try to learn through my experiences, and we kind of go from there. I mean, the most important thing to me is the relationship with the quarterback and everybody. You know, that's what we got to do this offseason, so they kind of get a sense of how I feel, how I do things. I think that's important, and how they see things. So that's the biggest thing. I don't get into that other stuff. All I worry about is this team and me, not who has been here. Listen, Ben did an unbelievable job. He's a hell of a coach, and I'm not taking that away from him at all. I would never do that, because we're friends. But, you know, we have to paint our own picture here, all right, so we can get the ultimate picture, which is a Super Bowl.
All right, so I wanted to end it there. He's given a lot of credit back to. Oh, you guys are not. You must still have YouTube playing somewhere. Still hear it in the background.
Not me.
Is that you, Riley? There's a ton of background noise somewhere. I don't know what it is.
That's weird. It's like I'm gonna disconnect and come back.
Okay. So
Is that better?
yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's weird. It was literally stuck on nothing.
Yeah, I still get a little bit of feedback. I just think it's your headphones, but we'll get that figured out. So I wanted to end it there because, you know, he's talking about Ben Johnson and how he does not want to compare himself to anyone, and I feel like that is the exact right mentality to have. You can't come into this year and try to live under a rock of Ben Johnson, and I think that would probably end up ruining his career in Detroit before it got started. And nobody can compare him to Ben Johnson. The players shouldn't be able to do that. And I hope that they don't. I hope that, you know, us fans, yeah, there's going to be some fans that are going to do some comparisons, and I get it. It's part of what it is. But he said something in there that kind of struck me, and he was talking about other NFL coordinators and how it's hard to trust, people in this business. So this is a hard business to trust. I guess it makes sense because you just don't know who's there to take your job and throw you under a bus or whatever, right? But that's exactly why I believe Dan Campbell brings the right people in for coaching, so he knows that he has the right guys on his team that aren't going to take advantage of things maybe in the future, or just looking to come in and get their shine and then leave. Corey, what's your take? And then at some point we're gonna have to figure out all this background noise. But
I think I got rid of it.
Just hearing a ton of background noise. It might be the gain on your mic. I don't know.
I'll adjust it down. But what I thought was interesting about that interview is this is my first time hearing it. And how many of those things did we touch on before hearing that conversation, right? Like John Morton was saying the same things we were saying about running an offense, about them seeing the field the same way as him seeing the field, right? About not putting in things for guys that aren't going to be able to run things. Like obviously we have a pulse on what he wants to do, and he has a vision for what he wants to do. And we can't think about what we lost in Ben Johnson, because although he was the play caller, man, these are the dudes out on the field that are executing. And so I think it's encouraging, man. I'm excited to see what that offense is going to look like under John.
And just so everyone does understand, like, this is not blowing smoke. I didn't even watch the Morton press conference. I watched the other one yesterday with everyone when we watched Scotty Montgomery, but I didn't get a chance to watch Morton last night. I watched a couple of snippets that I saw on Twitter, but I didn't hear the whole thing. And we listened to about more than 80% of it. And to your credit, Corey, you pointed out a lot of what he was just talking about. And the good banter back and forth between all three of us, pointing out a lot of what it takes to run an NFL team. And I appreciate the intelligence there, because I think that the audience and the people that watch this channel understand that's what we're trying to provide, is good, clean, wholesome content that they can ingest. And it's not a bunch of crap, right? Because you hear a lot of crap in this business. What were you taking away, Riley, by John Morton? Very laid back. He definitely appreciates his relationships. I liked where he said, again, he doesn't compare himself to others, and that he has to go in and be himself and learn from his mistakes, but learn from his experiences, which is the same way as learning from your mistakes. How do you view him right now? If you took the Cliff Notes version of Morton, from the day he arrived till now, how is he going to be as an offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out is, that's why Dan Campbell hired him.
Yep.
That's the perfect mindset to continue what you've already built. And I agree. And I hadn't heard that interview yet until we just listened to it now either. But as he's well spoken, even he's kind of, he's maybe not as comfortable in front of a microphone as maybe everyone else is, but he doesn't need to be. Just call the plays and have this self-awareness to realize this offense was really, really good. So let me just put my own twist on it, but let me just do my part, right? He doesn't have to come in and say, it's kind of like what Patricia came in and said, I got to reinvent this whole thing and build it up. No, you just got to keep it going. Rely on the players that have already proven that they can run the plays. Rely on Jared Goff to have the ingenuity to author some of the offense, make it his. And then, Corey, you were talking about earlier, there's a culture and established, you got to fall in line. Like if you're a new player on the team, you fall in line or else you're going to get flushed out. So, and then as far as the one comparison, and I agree, you can't compare yourself to other people, but I did like and appreciate the comparison of Jahmyr Gibbs to Reggie Bush, because I think we all remember Reggie Bush, the explosiveness and the highlights. It's just we've got a good one in Jahmyr Gibbs. But yeah, those were some of my thoughts there on that interview.
So another thing that I picked up out of this, and Corey, by the way, you're fine. We always have crap go on here. We call it the gremlins. It's just weird stuff we have to work out, but it's all good. So WD-40 is now a sponsor. No, I'm just kidding. The other thing that I was taken away from this, speech, if you will, this press conference of Morton is, let's not fix something. And I know we've talked about it a couple of times, but let's not fix something that isn't broken. And to your point, Riley, and others in the chat too, with Matt Patricia coming in and breaking everything apart and trying to rebuild it. We just heard from the man that said, look, I'll put something in front of these guys. If they can't do it, they can't do it. I'm not going to force it down their throat. And those are my words. But last year, the year before that, we saw Aaron Glenn forcing something on James Houston, trying to be a football player that he wasn't. Breaks his ankle because of it. Having to trail tight ends and running backs downfield, that's not what he was meant to be. He tried out as a linebacker with Jackson State, didn't work. Deion Sanders put him to defensive end, it worked. He gets drafted. He comes to Detroit his first year. He pops off with, 7 or 8 sacks in 7 games. And then the next year you want to change everything up on him. It did not work for the player. It did not work for the Lions. And now you have another new coordinator that is going to not do that thing. He's not going to put these guys in a position to fail. He's going to continue doing what works, and he's going to add his wrinkles. Corey, how important is that?
Sorry, I was adjusting my gain.
No, you're
Go.
good.
Give me the question one more time.
How important is it that Morton is going to continue using the things that work and not forcing these players to do things that maybe they're not comfortable with, or things they haven't done in the past, or things that they just can't do either yet because they're young or haven't done it at all? How important is that for a player to know that their offensive coordinator, their coach, has got their back and to put them into a winning position?
Yeah, putting you in a position for success is the most important quality of a coordinator, right? Like, it happens a lot at lower levels when you have a lot of turnover in high school and college, because you constantly got guys coming in and graduating out, coming in, graduating out. And not every guy is going to have the same skill set as the dude before him. In the NFL, it's a little different because you could pick your dudes and you can run your scheme and you can draft guys that kind of fit a role. But when you got a new coordinator coming in and he has to kind of judge how is he going to fit this set of players to the scheme, you don't fit the players to the scheme. You fit the scheme to the players, because
Bingo.
Those are the dudes out there who are performing, right? If Jameson Williams is running 5-yard hitch routes all day, then you're not using him to the best of your ability, right? Now can that work in an offense and then get him, some yards after the catch? Sure. And especially if you're going to complement what he does with the deep ball, but knowing like you got a Lamborghini, you're not going to go take it off road, right? Like, or else you're going to set up for some suspension issues. You got an off-road truck, you're not putting it in a drag race. And that type of analogy to football players is extremely important, because you want to use all the tools you have for the job they were designed to do. And so he's got that job and that role on his belt as the offensive coordinator, and then let the guys go out there and do what they were made to do, which is play football and use the gifts that God gave them to do it at their best. And so putting them in those positions of success, it's extremely, extremely vital.
I think so too. Anything you want to add to that, Riley? And then we might actually get into a topic that we wrote down today.
Yeah, no, I think it's well said. And then of course you're at least for me, my mind's also looking at the whole other side of the ball with Kelvin Shepherd, and it's going to be the same thing. You have the puzzle pieces, right? So I do remember like halfway through the year last year thinking and talking to a friend that said, man, the Lions better get it done this year because they're going to lose both those coordinators. And I thought, yeah, that probably will, but that doesn't close the window. The window is still wide open. It's because Dan Campbell is the head coach of the team.
I believe it. Let me get you guys set up for best comment of the day. I've taken a few, and I'm going to read them real quick. So Maureen says, Jared needed the right coach and the right culture. He found that in Detroit. I think it's a great comment. Brent Layton said, everyone remember when we hired the rocket scientist from that dominant franchise. How did that work out for us? Let us wish upon Benedict Johnson the curse of the fatty Matty Patty. I get it. Great comment too. Like, sometimes because you're coming from a storied franchise doesn't mean it's going to work out, right? We've seen that with the Belichick tree. I'm not expecting that with the Dan Campbell tree, but this is our first crack at it to see what happens. So we'll see what happens. John Desage says Lions had no money, no talent, no scheme, and no morale until Brad and Dan came here. Wonderful comment. Nothing but the truth there. And Jay-Z says, I listened to all the coach interviews yesterday after work. Every single one of them was not able for so many reasons. I love our players and our coaches. I'm not sure what the middle part of that comment meant, but what I took from this, he just loves
Notable, I think, is what he's trying to say.
Notable. Yeah, maybe we put those together. There you go. Got to see between the trees, huh? Every single one of them was notable. That makes sense. All right, so there's your votes, or there's your comments. Start voting. Poll is up, and you'll have until the end of the show. We'll pick a winner. I could repeat them at the end, too. So, go ahead.
Will you maybe have you do the honors? I think we do have a special guest in the chat. I'm seeing Corey.
Mama Besh up in the house.
Oh, I don't see it.
Carol Besh. Yeah, that's my
Carol
mom.
Besh.
She's up extra early. She's not in Cali, so she's a fan if she's getting up to watch her son on the tube, right? But yeah, shout out to Mom. Appreciate your support, Mom.
I love the comment too. It says it goes Lions, Tigers, and Bears.
Yep.
Oh my!
Well, sometimes they forget, right? Oh my!
That's the old Wizard of Oz.
Yes, sir.
Right, Lions and Tigers and Bears. Oh my! I love it. And good morning, Mrs. Carol Besh. Appreciate you coming into the show this morning. All right, so we really haven't gotten to anything. I wanted to at least get to one NFL news because this one just blew me away. Packers guard Sean Ryan lost $2 million this year in a raise. Get this. 2 plays. That's all he needed. 2 snaps. So he was 2 snaps shy of losing or of gaining $2 million. I know for a lot of us and a lot of people in the chat, not every single one of us is a millionaire, right? But if you are not a millionaire and you're thinking, man, just 2 more snaps and a couple million ducats in my pocket, how can that happen? How can a team, well, I guess that makes sense. It's the Packers. How could they royally screw that up for their guy? If you guys remember and the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I wanted to paint the picture of what the Lions did like for Josh Reynolds when he was on his way out, and they were making sure they were force-feeding him the ball in Week 18 to make sure that he got a few extra catches to get, I think it was a $500,000 bump or something like that. The Lions would have made sure that these guys got their bonuses. They do it every year. Someone's watching the stats. How close are they? Get these guys paid. So the Packers' epic collapse. They didn't allow a guy to make $2 million because of 2 snaps. Riley, I'll go to you first. Is this just Packers being Packers trying to save some money, or did they just really just blow it? Did they not pay attention?
Yeah, that is such a good question. I don't know the answer to that because you'd think the players certainly has to be mindful, right, of where he's at. Teammates, we see just like that was the first thing I thought of when you mentioned that was I remember they were force feeding Josh Reynolds the ball, and at that time I think the playoffs were out of the equation, or maybe they were. I think
it was 23. It was the first year we were heading into it.
Yeah. But the point is, dude, teammates and players rally around that type of stuff. That's the stuff that builds camaraderie. And 2 snaps away, that's a blown opportunity. Sure, they're happy to have the $2 million, but 2 snaps, you should have done right by the player.
And let me kind of paint the picture a little bit before Corey gives us his answer. All he had to do was play 35% of the snaps, and he finished at 34.96% of 1,144 snaps on the season for the offense. So, man, just 2 snaps. That's crazy. Corey, what do you think about
what's
this?
Interesting, I think, and I'm looking at this article, it's not even just 1 season. It's over 3 seasons that he had to hit that 35% threshold. So in his contract, the article goes on to say, there's a comment by his agent, Cameron Foster, that they had consulted an online database of snap counts and thought he hit the 35% threshold exactly. But when he got reported back to them by the NFL Players Association and the NFL, they had him under 35% by 2 snaps. So, I mean, either he's going to get a new agent who's going to get some better resources, or, he's going to find a new team. But that either way, it's really inexcusable, right? Like this, you had 3 years to get this dude to 35%, 2 more snaps. Like, man, that is a hard pill to swallow. And yeah, that would hurt a little bit. You saw Trey Hendrickson talking about his relationship with his team, and the feelings he has about that situation. Man, if I missed out on $2 million for 2 snaps, I'd have some feelings about it, and I definitely wouldn't forget that when the next renegotiation term came around. It's like, maybe you're going to make it right by me if I'm going to stay in Green Bay.
That's a great point. And I was just going to kind of bring something up similar to that. So he made a base salary of $1.36 million, and his new salary would have increased to $3.406 million had he played those 35%. So if he does get a renegotiated contract, or if he forces a renegotiated contract this year, now you're going to have to excuse my illiteracy with the Packers a little bit. I don't know enough about Ryan. Obviously, he's not starting. He's not, playing the majority of the snaps. He probably doesn't have a seat at the table to try to push for that if he's not, a player that they feel that they really need to keep around. But come on, man. If you're the Packers, would you not want to just make this right and say, look, okay, you missed 2 snaps. We're going to give you $1.99 million. Like, do something for the guy. Take care of him. These guys are not in the league for long, and they need this money and to take care of their bodies and everything afterwards, and take care of their families. Like, this is a career that, they're going through hundreds of car crashes every single season. And I think that is a detriment to these guys that, when they're done playing, it might be 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the line that they find out that, they're just not the same. They're different. Their body's breaking down. They need that money to survive. So this is an epic collapse. And to your point, Corey, yeah, get a new agent. Like, either that or you've got to go and ask for an audit, and you need to go back and watch every single game over the last 3 seasons and run a snap count, which I'm sure they already did with the NFLPA. But good point. Good point. Anything else here in NFL news that we really need to touch with? Anything you guys see on the sheet that you really want to talk about today?
For me personally, I kind of minor news throughout. Be curious. I saw a highlight yesterday of Penix. Michael Penix threw a beautiful spiral, and I see you had something here listed as one of the topics. Did you have anything on that particular?
We can make it a quick one, but he's among 5 of the second-year players expected to make a splash in 2025. I would agree. I think that Penix really outshined a lot of the quarterbacks last year that were taken before him and even after him, minus Jaden Daniels, of course. But I think Penix had a heck of a rookie season, and the players that they're putting around him, I feel like it's going to give him an opportunity to really shine this season. So the Falcons, as the article says, the Falcons put a ton of pressure on the back of their second-year player by trading a future first-round pick for a pass rusher, James Pierce, at the end of last month's first round, as opposed to bringing in maybe another offensive lineman. They went defense. So what was your you were going to say something, Corey?
Yeah, I was just going to say they called their shot with Penix, right? They signed Kirk Cousins to this giant contract, and then they drafted another quarterback. And so there must be something about the dude that they loved to bring him in, with his rookie at the end of his rookie season after, Cousins wasn't cutting it, and to see the potential he showed on the field. I think that's promising. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out because, again, we've talked about this. You don't get a lot of time to get film on a guy, right? When he's a rookie and when he comes in late in the season. And so DCs are going to have that opportunity now to see him for a larger sample size. And I'm sure he will make progress, But don't forget, he's a left-handed quarterback, so the ball spins the wrong way. And that's always an issue for receivers. No, they did do another crazy draft strategy in drafting 2 edges this year, right? Like drafting back up into the first round to get that edge, like you were saying, Will. And so they definitely need help in the pass rush. We'll see if they're in enough competitive games that Penix can, push them over the top. He looks like a great leader. And to what we were talking about with Jared Goff earlier in the show, like that's one thing I think you can't doubt about him. He has had success wherever he's winning. He has that resiliency coming back from injuries and putting forth a winning product on the field. It'll be interesting to see how he does with a full season at the helm for the Falcons.
So before I get into the next topic here, I just want to remind you guys that this year I'm trying to do away game trips, right? We're trying to put 50 fans, super fans, just like you, into a charter bus, and it's going to be an executive trip to the Packers, the Bears, and the Vikings. Now, with all of this talk that we're going to be opening the season potentially against an NFC North rival, I can't stress enough that once we find out what that schedule is tonight, I will make some adjustments to the pricing. I've got to get on the horn immediately tomorrow morning with the franchises to figure out what they're going to do for me on ticket pricing. And by tomorrow, I will make the final adjustment. But you have to get your deposits in, because if we don't secure it now, you guys know what's going to happen. Tickets are going to be gone, and then we're going to have to pay full price. And if we have to pay full price, it's not going to be cheap. The price is going to go up. It will never go down. The prices that I have right now are very, very, very competitive for travel, a night's hotel, and food, and catering and all that good stuff. So we'll make the final adjustments by tomorrow, and then you guys need to get your deposits in if it's something that you want to do, and then share it. Like, share these with a friend. And any benefit that we get from this, any sort of revenue that we can drive as profit, it's going to go to the Rockhound Cancer Foundation. And we won't know what that is until, the end of the season when these trips are done. But that's where all of that money is going towards. So it's a good way to support and then join 50 fans at an amazing trip. It's going to be fun. We don't have any buses leaving Boise yet, but maybe in the future we'll do that. But the reason why I bring that up is because tickets go on sale tonight. So as soon as the schedule is released right around 8 p.m., you know how the Lions do. They're going to make us hurry up and wait. The Lions do have a special program at 7:45 that we will bring into the show while we're live, and at least have it kind of in the background so that we can hear what they're saying potentially and talk about it. But tonight you will be able to buy single game tickets, and the Lions are allowing you to buy up to 8 seats per game. Which I don't know if they did that last year, but you can buy up to 8 seats per game. And, man, you're going to have to get them while they're available, because I have a feeling that we're going to be sold out every single game again this year. And prices did go up. I'm interested to see just how expensive it's going to be tonight. I'll be watching while we're live. Riley, what's going on with YouTube this year? So I know a lot of fans are pissed off about this, that, YouTube or the NFL is kind of forcing us to have a YouTube subscription and a Prime subscription at that. So talk to us about what's going on with Brazil.
Yeah, so we've got Julius Stumbaugh from Bleacher Report reporting that YouTube to stream Chargers week one game in Brazil on 2025 NFL schedule. NFL fans will be able to watch the Los Angeles Chargers open their 2025 regular season in Sao Paulo, Brazil, for free on YouTube. This will mark the first time an NFL game has been exclusively streamed for free on the platform. Now, the game will also be available on local broadcast television in local markets. The Chargers are set to kick off the season on Friday, September 5th. The team's week one opponent will be announced tonight with the rest of the schedule, but the rumor is that it will be the Kansas City Chiefs. So it will be free, at least. And it marks the first time that YouTube has streaming, and they don't have a NFL specific production team to do the game. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all comes together and what the production looks like, but it will be free and it will be on YouTube.
Well, that's a blessing, right? Because everyone was a little ticked off last year when they had to purchase Prime to watch the football game. And then, of course, you're going to need a Prime subscription to make sure that you don't have ads and all that good stuff, right? The premium subscription. Which I still don't understand why they don't give us, channels, creators, an opportunity to sell those at a discounted rate or give them away or purchase them to be able to give them away. Like, they're missing out on a huge opportunity to grow that, just like with memberships. Like, we should be able to include that stuff in our memberships, and then they just take it out of our, out of our kitty, if you will. But any thoughts for you on this, Corey, before we get into Hank Fraley?
I think my only issue with YouTube and streaming services is the delay, man. I experienced that during the draft, during the NFL draft. Ahmed and I, we the only way we could get the draft up was through YouTube TV. So I subscribed for the trial, and we could not get that thing closer than like a minute delay. And so when everyone else is getting this news that is like timely and very important, and he gets a call, the Bears were still up. And so there were people in the room that were thinking he might be going to the Bears because he got a phone call, and we're looking on the TV and it says that the Bears are going to be picking next. Thank goodness we were on a delay and it was the Lions, or else, can you imagine what I would have had to been dealing with? I would be on Mike Ditka's Fury's team. Goodness gracious, that would have been bad. No, I'm just teasing. But I just want to make sure that when we do these streaming services, and I love that it's going to be free, but there's part of me that has like some concerns. It's going to be in Brazil, so they're going to have to bring that infrastructure, to get it out of Brazil and to us in a timely manner. Like, with everyone in the world trying to stream it, because everyone's going to be on it. It's, man, like, just get it to me so I'm not getting a notification on my app before the play happens on my screen. That's one of the things that I really have struggled with over the last few years as things have gone to streaming. It's like, man, if we're not getting that information live, if you're having to buffer your TV or you're 30 seconds behind, it's like you're getting notifications about things that are happening. You might be able to trick some people in your room and make some side money on some bets, but man, it's like it kind of ruins the experience of watching a game live.
I hear you. I can't stand the delays, man. It's tough for us doing this when we're trying to watch and comment on things, and especially during the drafts. I'm there at the draft this year, and we had a major delay. And I'm like, we are on their internet. We're watching their TVs to a degree. I mean, I couldn't a whole lot because I was doing this. Eric was, to a degree, watching what was going on with the TV. But as I was making my picks and my suggestions, which I hit 24 out of 32, by the way. You probably didn't watch the draft coverage by myself because you were busy with your own family. But, yeah, I hit 24 out of 32 calls on the night of the draft in the first round. And as we're watching, it's like people in the chat started to say the picks. And I'm like, man, they're not even up to the podium yet where we are. And you're talking 3-4 minute delays. And so finally we had to tell the chat just to kind of knock it off. But, yeah, it's tough. It's tough at times. It's almost like maybe you just want to start your show with a delay. But I see somebody in the chat that just reminded me to do something. So nobody Kapler talking about the Hall of Fame game tickets. I'd be interested to know where your seats are, but you just reminded me to reach out to my guy. We have like front row on the wall in the end zone next to all of the Hall of Fame players is where we sat last year. And I have those tickets every year. So I just reached out to him when I saw that to make sure that he's not going to have 2 extra tickets this year so I can bring 2 more people. But thank you for reminding me. But if you're trying to get rid of tickets like that, you can always email me mailbag@rockdown.com and I might be able to find somebody for you. All right. So Hank Fraley. Look, I love Hank. Hank is one of my favorite coaches for the Lions, primarily because he has put together one of the best offensive lines in the league. And yeah, it helps to have really good football players. But what he has done in the way that he cross-trains everybody, I'm sure that a lot of teams do that. But I think that Hank puts a special little touch every year on what this offensive line is able to do, how he's able to keep these guys healthy. He gets them the right amount of practice. But clearly he is the best offensive line coach, or at least one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL. Now, he was worried, or we were worried about him leaving this year, and he had an interview in Seattle. And let me kind of dial in this article here. So he interviewed for a bigger role in Seattle, as an offensive coordinator. Now, he didn't land the job, but the interview was more than just a formality for him. It was a legit opportunity for him for career growth. Lions were able to keep him. Now, whether that was Seattle not offering him the job or whether it was the Lions giving him an additional role, there's something that he said in here where he's talking about his kids and how he's got 3 college bills now and how expensive it is for, for him to, obviously manage that. He's clearly looking for probably more opportunity, more money to take care of his family, but he loves Detroit. He feels like Detroit is his home. It's the longest place that he has lived for more than 4 years while coaching in the NFL or playing in the NFL. And he has a real, shot at doing some exceptional things here. Here's his quote about the interview opportunity. He says, "It was a good experience. I went out there. It was a long flight, but it was good. I think with everything that you do in life, you're always learning from something and trying to get better at it. It was a great opportunity to at least look at it and learn from. You never want to take things for granted. We had a great meeting, but I'm very glad I'm back here because this is where I wanted to be with my family. It was a great little learning experience. If it ever arose or came about again, I've already taken that step. What can I do better? What can I not do better? Are the questions that he was asking himself. And then he also stated that, there's a lot outside of football too, where he talks about, everybody knows I've got 4 kids, the third one about to go to college this year. So that's 3 college bills. My family, we've been going on 8 years here. My kids before here, this is the longest that they've ever lived in one place, was 4 years. Michigan, I would say, is home for them. So it makes me ask the question, if he was offered the job in Seattle, would his family would have stayed behind and how difficult that probably would have been for him, while they navigate the waters here in Michigan with kids going to college and not uprooting everything. And you just don't know if it's going to last. You don't know if it's a 1-year gig because maybe things don't go well, or if you're there for more than a year or two, then maybe you make the move with everybody. But that's a real problem in the NFL. So what I wanted to ask you, Corey and Riley, in the chat is how thankful, well, Corey, you don't know just yet, maybe you do, but how thankful are you that Hank is still here and that he's still coaching one of the best offensive lines? And we go back to what John Morton said, you don't change what isn't broken. You continue, with what's working. This offensive line's been working. And this is just another reason why I'm not worried about the offense, because the offensive line is going to stay intact from a personnel perspective and a coaching perspective. So Riley, I'll start with you and then let's kick it to Corey.
Yeah, so it takes me back to, I remember at the end of the season when, guys were doing like locker room clean out and stuff. There were a couple quotes. Ragnow, I think, said something along the lines basically of, I haven't played in this league without Hank. I don't plan on not playing with him. And then I think Sewell also said something like, he's not going anywhere. We're not going to let him go. So obviously they want, him to take the next move in his career that it'd be best for him. But it sounds like from what Hank's saying is he looks around, he's right where he needs to be. That role and that opportunity is the one he has currently. And so, and you imagine the last few years, just the experiences they haven't gotten to and won the Super Bowl yet, which is the ultimate goal. But it would be so hard to leave a situation like this in a role where you're very good. He got the run game coordinator, so he joked it was just, downplayed it. There's just a title, but reality is he is taking on more responsibility. So you've got all your players, you've got a head coach you believe in, you're in a winning organization, you're comfortable. I mean, it would have taken mountains to move to get him to move the situation he's in right now, and I'm glad that he is still in Detroit.
Yeah. I didn't know a lot about Coach Fraley before reading this, and I'm not gonna lie, when you see his picture, that's exactly what you want your offensive line coach to look like, right? A dude who looks like he could probably still play the position.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying all the things you want to hear from a guy as well, right? He's talking about, it being a deeper commitment than just money. I've heard something similar coming out of Boise. The head coach here, Spencer Danielson, one of the hottest coaching prospects in the entire nation, has said it is his dream job to be the head coach at Boise State. There are probably bigger and more amounts of money out there at bigger programs for him, but But when you have a conviction to be somewhere, when you have something anchoring you in a place, right? Your family matters, man. And you want people like that value their family's opinion. You know, like saying I've been in one place for 8 years, that is the hardest thing, I think, for coaches, is that they are constantly on the move and having to bounce around from place to place and not having a lot of stability. And so if you find a place that feels like home, that accepts you like family, that your own family can ingratiate themselves with, and the community, it's like, man, there's a lot of value in that, and it has nothing to do with dollars. And real, you know, people, which we all are, right? Whether you're a player, a coach, a fan, we're all humans, man. And those, you know, values, and they matter to people. And so whether he gets an opportunity in the future, you can tell he's loved by his players. They want him here. He wants to be here. It's a great relationship. And I think that product will perform on the field because of that, because of those intangible qualities that are built into the relationship and built into him being a part of the Detroit coaching staff. So yeah, I think it's a great thing to keep him around and give him maybe a little more responsibility within the offense, and him to continue to learn and develop himself as a coach, so that when that next opportunity comes down the line, you know, for us or for someone, that he's prepared to do it, and we can, you know, support him in whatever he's doing. So it's awesome.
So the Lions obviously took care of Fraley this year, and I want to read this next quote, because part of what Fraley does is he has to continue to grow, right? And he has to make sure that this offensive line is ready no matter what. And we've seen that. Like the first couple of seasons under Hank Fraley's tutelage, I mean, he had like more than 10 different offensive line rosters in a game. And that's crazy to think that you've put 10 different formations in there to start a football game because of injuries. And this quote by Hank simply says, "I know Brad and Coach Campbell always have a plan and big picture for the team. I'll be totally honest. Sometimes on draft day, you're not totally sure of what they're going to do either. I'm sitting with my feet up like, all right, what are we going to do? We make our little assessments as coaches, playing a part of the puzzle, but it is nice to always get some fresh new faces every year. This year, we happened to draft two young men that really had good college careers, and hopefully they can come in here and help us," talking about Tate Routledge and Frazier. So to move forward, I mean, this is what we have to look forward to. This is why Hank Fraley matters, and this is broken down in this article. Penei Sewell, he's become an all-pro. Frank Ragnow, still one of the best centers in the league. Detroit Lions have built, one of the best offensive identities around physicality and discipline up front in the trenches. None of that is changing. And I feel like Hank getting two more pieces to his puzzle is only going to give him more of an opportunity to do more within the offense. He's got some guys that can move. He's got guys they're going to be well structured within the zone blocking scheme, the zone run game. I mean, these guys are able to get to the second and third levels as needed. And I think that's exactly why they're on the team. And I mean, Hank's just got to be sitting back with that evil, what's that guy from, what's that movie? The bald dude, he sits back with his
my gosh, Austin Powers.
Yeah, sit back there with that little evil smile. Yeah, there you go. And like, man, just look at what I have on this offensive line now for riches. He is super blessed on that line, and I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see Gibbs again this year, and David just doing what they do best, man. All right, so we're up against the clock now. It's about 8 minutes before 10. Corey, anything that you want to bring up here in the last few minutes? Otherwise, I'll kick it to Riley to find us a topic, and then we're gonna get this vote done here on best comment.
Yeah, Riley, what you got for us?
Yeah, let me see here really quick. I'll pull this one as we transition here into getting ready for the schedule release tonight. There was an article by Vito. I don't know how to say it. Is it Shirko? I think
so. I think it's a fake name, honestly, but
Vito, we'll go with that. Sports Illustrated. But he has he went through and he found the toughest opponent for him on the schedule. And I'm going to agree with it. So he's got the game at Baltimore. So the Lions road tilt with the 2-time reigning AFC North champions has been labeled by Pro Football and Sports Network as the, quote, toughest game on their schedule, the Lions schedule. Kyle Sopp writes, the Lions proved last season that they are capable of scoring with anyone, and at full health, this team has a real chance to sit atop our power rankings. One of the teams that will challenge for that title is the Baltimore Ravens, a team that Detroit will have to travel to play during the 2025 regular season. Sorry, there's some background on my, but yeah, so the game at Baltimore, I remember that one from a couple years ago. That game, I have never in my life, I understand football is 4 quarters. I'm a very patient person, generally, I feel. I don't jump to conclusions. That game at halftime, I went to the gym. I was like, I'm done. They got absolutely obliterated. Thankfully, that's in the past, but Baltimore is a tough team. I don't know, as you guys look through the schedule, is there a opponent or a game that stands out to you as possibly being more difficult than at Baltimore?
I think we talked a little bit about this, yesterday or 2 days ago, the top 10, or it was like the top 10 must-see matchups. And there was the Chiefs, the Eagles, and the Ravens, right? So they had ranked us up there as one of those top teams that's going to be in a lot of games that people are going to want to watch. And I agreed with you, man. I said, I'm not scared of anybody, but man, there are some things that Lamar can do with his legs that just make it extremely difficult on a defense, right? When he can run 100 yards and stay in the backfield with his eyes downfield, that's going to be a challenge for anybody, whether that's Aiden, my brother, whoever, Marcus Davenport. If you can't keep that dude in the pocket, we're going to have a hard time covering guys man-to-man down the field. And so, and then when you bring in weather and you bring in, outdoor games and things like that, it can be challenging. And so I think the Ravens are, again, always going to be a challenge just because of you have Lamar at quarterback, but I don't think there's any team that really can't be beat, right, by the Lions. I think if we play within our scheme and we do, obviously you got to do some things different when you're scheming against a guy like Lamar versus, Caleb Williams or whoever else. But I think that's why you play the games, right? That's why they're must-see matchups, because you're putting great teams against other great teams and saying, hey, do your best to show me what you got, and we're going to do our best to stop it. So I think it's one of those games where you got to put a circle around it, man, because it's going to be must-see TV, and the winner of that game is really going to have something to hang their hat on and say, this is what we can do. Now you get to come and chase us. So, yeah, it's exciting. And I want to mention Gina is talking about, hoping that we can talk about how can we get this channel bigger. Thank you for that comment, Gina. And I'm sure Will can suggest, alternative ways to kind of grow the channel and get that word out there. But just appreciate you supporting and asking, we would love for the channel to grow, and Will can speak to that, but it's definitely going to grow if we beat the Ravens. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that we're well within our way of growing. I mean, look, this channel started really on YouTube in October of 23, and to be very close to hitting 10,000 subscribers in not even 20 months, roughly. That's big, right? It was one of the fastest growing Lions channels out there. Still is and will be. I think that we're probably going to have our biggest jump this year. There's going to be some changes, obviously, coming. I've got to do a couple of things on the back end with the algorithm, but just adding an individual like Corey, who's going to bring in the energy and the takes and the knowledge, right? I mean, the former playing experience, that's going to be huge. And so how can you help? It's sharing the content. It's literally, don't be afraid to put it on your social media. Let people know who's on the channel and what we talk about. Don't be afraid to tell people you're not going to get clickbait here. I think that fans are starting to finally get a little bit fed up with the clickbait. They get trapped in it. And I see some of the biggest channels out there do a lot of clickbait. I just have a hard time with it. Maybe I'll do a channel that's just clickbait only, and I'm going to warn you up front that it's clickbait. Maybe it'll be called Not for Clicks. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the most you can do to really help is simply subscribe, and help us by sharing the content and liking the stream when you get in first thing in the morning, because that puts it into the algorithm. The morning show, if it gets 12, 1,300, 2,000 views a day, that's great. It's more natural views because we don't have ads on the entire time. That's true natural views. When you see the bigger channels that have a ton of views, it's because they have ads on and they're just plugging it, and each ad, is a new view. So we do it naturally and organically, and it'll continue to rise. If we don't hit 20K this year, I'd be surprised, but I think that we will. I think that by the end of this next season, if we don't hit 20 or 25K, I'd be really surprised. That's going to be the big goal. We wanted to get to 10K before the draft, a little bit short. And you know what? Part of that's my fault because I'm not doing as many videos in the off season. I just have to start doing videos because my videos, the reach sucks right now because I don't do them, and you have to get back in front of the algorithm. So that'll all be coming. But, you guys are loyal, the best fan base out there. And we really appreciate everything that you do to help us. And thank you for being here. So let's do this vote here. So it looks like Maureen is running away with the vote, and the comments were this. So Maureen said Jared needed the right coach and the right culture. He found that in Detroit. Brent said, everyone remember when we hired the rocket scientist from that dominant franchise? How did that work out for us? John Desage says the Lions had no money, no talent, no scheme, and no morale until Brad and Dan came here. And Jay-Z said that he listened to all of those coach interviews yesterday after work, and every single one of them was notable for so many reasons. I love our players and our coaches. I'll give you just another minute here to go through it. And while we're waiting, Gina, here you go. Talking about JMO.
Looks, throws, it is complete. There goes JMO right side. He's got the angle to the end zone. 25-20, 15-10, 5, end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. JMO flies into the end zone, and the Lions extend their lead.
Love it.
All right, let's finish out those votes. Who's going to win? So far, Maureen is running away with it. 30% to Brent, 67% to Maureen. Come on, someone's got to give John Desage a vote here. Someone vote for
We got
John.
a little game show music. I love it.
Yeah.
I have some past history on game shows. I'm
Yeah?
a loser.
You're a
Yeah,
loser?
I've been on 2 game shows, lost both times. The Price is Right and Let's Make a Deal. Lost both times.
I don't even know
Are
how
you
you get
for real?
on those shows, man.
I'm dead serious. 100%. You can see it on YouTube.
All right, Maureen won. So we'll now I'm gonna have to find that. You're gonna have to send me links to those.
I will. We could analyze that video and see how bad they made me look in editing.
Yeah,
My mom was with me at Let's Make a Deal. Mom, if you're still in the chat, yeah.
Yeah.
do a breakdown and step by step, play by play.
Yeah, let's
What were you thinking here?
Let's watch it live and let's see if I can get the answers right.
Yeah.
And see
for
if
real.
because I probably wouldn't, but anyway, not my cup of tea, man. Trivia is not for me. I have there's a part of my brain that doesn't work, and that's like people can remember everything about a movie in quotes. That part of my brain doesn't work. I can't remember that stuff. I don't know why, but I just can't. Anyway, good show today, fellas. Appreciate you being in here. As always, Corey, what's your schedule look like? I know you're talking, you got to go to California or something.
Yeah, got to go take the baby to Disneyland for his first time, celebrate my daughter's birthday, and
nice.
and visit some family. So I'll be gone this weekend, but definitely excited to do the schedule release tonight. And just to touch on the liking and sharing and growing this channel, don't be afraid to ask people to like and subscribe. Like sharing it is awesome, but sometimes just sharing it doesn't give somebody an objective, right? Like, hey, would you go and like this to 5 of your, subscribe to this channel for me? It's to help it grow. Like, let them know exactly what you're asking. And another place is, if there's I know for Boise State, there was a huge Facebook group and just stuff is getting recycled from fandoms, stuff like that, places like that to share the channel and share what we're doing is a great place to find a common group of like-minded individuals who might not have seen it because they're not on a different platform. So making sure you diversify where you're sharing it and to who you're sharing it to with some objective, call outs like, man, please go like and subscribe this. I'm trying to get 5 subscribers here or whatever. Like Riley was saying, you'd be surprised how just a little bit of a push in the direction that you're asking them to go will help them realize and capitalize on that. So yeah, it's exciting. It'll be fun to be away for this weekend and go celebrate Disneyland, but I'm excited to get back and talk more football once we know who we're going to be playing and when.
Let me add to that. We've been doing this last month. We've been doing a content award. So for people that are sharing the content, tagging, if you're putting it on X, tag me at Will Rock Jr. If you're putting it on Facebook, tag me at Rockdown Detroit Lions. And yes, exactly what he just said. Ask people to subscribe. And the more that they share, tell them we're doing content awards. Don't be afraid to get more people in the fold. Every month, I'm going to pick somebody that I see has been sharing the content, asking people to subscribe, and I'm going to get you a grab bag every single month. There might be 2 winners a month. And Trace will tell you, sometimes you get a $100 football in those grab bags. Sometimes you might get a Lions jersey. You might get, T-shirts, whatever. They're loaded. These aren't just little trinkets, worth $5 from the dollar store. You're getting some really great stuff from Pro Sports Zone in Livonia. Make sure you go visit them. All right, you guys, final 30 to you, Riley, then back to you, Corey, and then we're going to jump out of here.
Yeah, just very well said. The chat, the community, the people, you guys are the most important part of this channel, and this community is everything. It's one of my favorite things that's happened in my life over the last 6 months is finding the channel and becoming part of it and being fortunate enough to do so. And I appreciate Will. I know everything he does, there's a pure heart behind the efforts of this network. And we just want to grow and make Detroit Lions fandom and football fandom better. So yeah, concur with these guys, ask people to like and subscribe, help us grow, know that you're an important part of it. And I know where I will be tonight, right back here with these guys, Will and Corey, for the schedule release. Go Lions.
All right, Corey, final 30 to you on anything.
My 30, I think I've taken 15 final 30s because I'm always talking, but yeah, just doubling down on what Riley says. We really appreciate you guys being here. And part of the reason why I personally joined this channel, I mean, you guys know that there's a lot of options in Detroit media, but the transparency, right? The truth aspect of it matters. And that's not just when putting out sports news. It matters on who you're dealing with and how you deal with other people. And I think that's something I noticed right away. It didn't take me long to realize that this was a little bit different. And I wanted to be a part of that. And so we appreciate you being a part of that. We want other people to be a part of it. And it's a personal thing for us, not just a sports thing. And that's what sports are about. It's about the people coming together for a common cause. And that's why we're here. That's why we do it. That's why I'm waking up at 5 a.m. now. And I wouldn't want it any other way. So really appreciate you guys being here. And we appreciate you, Riley and Will, for having me again. And looking forward to growing together.
The 5 a.m. club, man, it's real. It gets your heart pumping, man. It takes a couple of days, but yeah, I've always been a 5 a.m.er. And, after what I went through with all the surgeries, I was a 3 o'clock guy. And it's just the way that my body rolled. And yeah, that's not fun at 3, but 5 is good. I like 5. All right, you guys.
Will, you were always in that chair.
Yeah, always.
I think you were in that chair.
18 hours a day I work. That's no joke. 18 hours a day. I got to take some time off from time to time, but 18 hours a day, whether it's here, personal, business things. But it's nonstop, man. You got to be on the grind with the Rise and Grind. See you guys back here tomorrow morning. Tonight, Rockdown Detroit Lions, talking schedule release. Get it while you can. We'll see you guys tonight. Take care.
Yeah, 1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2. Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Hey. Against all odds. Against all odds. Against all odds. Against all odds.